I'm prefacing it only because it's always the sensitive issue of the Jews not recognizing Jesus as the Messiah and the Son of God and so on.
Some things are better left unsaid. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In this clip, Dennis Prager of Prager University fame basically mocks Bishop Barron, a Catholic bishop, and makes a statement that I'm sure left Bishop Barron just absolutely churning inside. He says that one of the tall tale signs that Jesus isn't the Messiah, isn't who he claimed he was, is because he was a bachelor. In other words, being celibate means he has no merit with the Jewish people to be the Messiah, neither a religious or political leader. Now, make the connection. Bishop Barron is a priest, which means he believes that Jesus is the Messiah, and he is also celibate because celibacy is a grand virtue in the Catholic Church. Why, though? Why is this a grand virtue in the Catholic Church? Precisely because Jesus was celibate, and therefore its clergy is celibate. This was just mind-boggling to me. Check this clip out. I couldn't believe it, honestly. There's also great theological concepts being discussed here. Pay attention particularly to what Jonathan Pageau says, and I'll see you at the end.
I'm prefacing it only because it's always the sensitive issue of the Jews not recognizing Jesus as the Messiah and the Son of God and so on. But I have always felt that one of the obstacles to the Jews at the time accepting Jesus was that he was a bachelor. Jews have no figures of heroic bachelors. And it's just a provocative, interesting thought for your consideration. That's all I'm throwing it out there. I don't know any of the rabbis of the Talmud who were bachelors. None of the great Jews from Moses on.
Jeremiah is celibate, isn't he?
Well, he is, isn't he?
He takes a vow of celibacy.
He never ended up marrying, is that correct? Or,
I think so. I'd have to look at it again, but I think he takes a vow of celibacy.
Too. Okay, it's exceedingly rare.
But it's rare,
and
you're
it's
quite
certainly
right,
not the Jewish ideal. So I just
But the image is that this is what happens, this is the madness of the situation, is that just like Mary is a virgin, Christ's virginity or his celibacy is so that he becomes the bridegroom.
The bridegroom of the
And the actual word that's used is very striking.
the bridegroom of
The world.
Of the world, of creation.
Right. I mean, he addresses her gune, woman, which can also mean wife in the Greek, but not as mother or mum. You know, it sets up the archetype. It sets up the invitation to think of her as a...
I mean, the kind of hieros gamos, that this is some sort of sacred marriage of...
Yeah.
People all my life have asked me about priestly celibacy. They're fascinated by it, right? And, you know, it's not something that's necessary in the priesthood. There have been, for a long time, priests weren't celibate. And there are different arguments we can make. I've always found that the most convincing one is Jesus was celibate. And the priest is meant to be an alter Christus. And so it's the celibacy of Jesus. That's what I would point to. There are more pragmatic arguments I could use. But it's like priesthood participating in the Christic form.
And it's a deeply sexual reality that at least is presented in the story of Jesus, is that he is going to become the bridegroom for the cosmos, and the relationship between Christ and the church is presented in St. Paul especially as this erotic relationship between Christ and the followers. And so it's not a celibacy in a kind of weird prudish way. It's rather this dedication of sexuality to something higher, which then kind of manifests itself cosmically.
So this is to the Christians present. If he were married, do you think it would have taken away from his message?
I mean, it didn't happen that way, so I don't know how to answer that question.
That's fine. It may be unimaginable.
Not his message, but I think there's symbolic dimension.
By the way, on behalf of the Catholic Church, I just want people watching to understand that marriage is a sacrament of your church.
Of course,
people may not know that. They may think the only sacrament.
No, right.
It is. Okay.
But it's also related to this idea of sacrifice, which is really important. That the sacrificial element that Christianity offers is life-giving. And so we say the life of the church is based in the martyrs, right? The life of the church is based in these ascetics. So downstream from the ascetic is actually families with 10 children and like huge burgeoning
service
communities.
of life.
And so the sacrifice is like this pointing up, which looks like it's a negation, but it ends up being a seed that fills the rest
It's the
of the
highest
world up.
union.
That's right. And so that's important because it's really the way it's
there's
understood.
a celibacy in marriage that's
Of course.
in service of life.
Yeah.
And the celibacy in marriage is that you don't sleep with anyone else, right?
That's right.
Yeah, we say marriage is a cross.
There's another married man who says what I've said my whole life. The only difference between me and a priest is he can't have any woman, and I can't have any woman but one.
Right, right.
So the theological concepts in this clip are absolutely fascinating. For one example, Christ is the bridegroom of the cosmos is one nugget that Jonathan Pageau talks about. And I don't want to get into that today because I want to focus on Dennis Prager and what he is saying. But be sure to read the book of Colossians and think through what Jonathan Pageau is saying in this clip. So to Dennis Prager, I just couldn't believe this. Firstly, he says Jesus can't be a Messiah because he is a bachelor. Notice what he's saying, though. He seems to imply that celibacy is inferior to marriage. Why? Secondly, to make things worse, he reminds everyone that marriage is a sacrament in the Catholic Church. But the reason he is saying this is kind of a slam or a jab against the sacredness and beauty of the priesthood. Thirdly, to ease the tension, or at least try to ease the tension, he says that priests and him are nearly similar because he can only have one woman and priests can have none. But again, this is undermining the importance of the priests and the sacred role that they have within the church. What a debacle. I could not believe just the irreverent remarks of Dennis Prager within this clip. But if we can learn anything from this clip, it's that people will always belittle the Jesus way. People don't like Jesus, they don't understand Jesus, and Jesus doesn't make sense. Furthermore, it is precisely those that give their whole life to Jesus' service that are persecuted the most. I can't believe Prager said these things, and I think it's a good time, and this is how I want to conclude, to remember those who serve in the church. Remember your priests, pray for them, and be sure to give them encouragement this week. So if you think that Dennis Prager's comments were erroneous and they need to be heard by other people so that they can know that they should avoid some of his thoughts and concepts, especially his antagonism to the Catholic and Christian Church, and also to be reminded that they should encourage their leaders, encourage their religious leaders within the communities that they frequent. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe, and share it with somebody so that the word gets out. All right, that's all I have for this video. Remember that Christianity is Christ, and without Christ, there is no Christianity. See you in the next one. Peace.